Spring training is officially underway. Giants pitchers and catchers have reported. Is there drama already?
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide episodes 3 days a week, just until the end of February, then back to 5 days a week, where we are for 10 months out of the year, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, hosting this show for coming up on 6 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day, or 3 days a week for now. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. And coming up on today's show, I did a little tease there about drama, and the answer is that there's not drama with players, but there may be some drama with fans about this news. As Giants pitchers and catchers have reported, it's a blessing for people like me who are looking for content, always on the hunt, and suddenly there's great content every day. So be sure to keep coming back to the show 3 days a week until March, and then 5 days a week after that, and 5 days a week until December. So yeah, that's what we provide here. But the drama I speak of relates to Justin Verlander, who is 42. He's not a young man anymore. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is about his number 35. Who wore number 35? Well, Brandon Crawford, not long ago at all. And so, were there some fans, probably, who thought that maybe no one would ever wear number 35 again for the Giants? In my opinion, this is not a big deal. But I think to a lot of people it is a big deal. I've never been a huge number guy. I know some people are huge into numbers. That's funny. I'm a huge number guy, but not jersey numbers. Statistics for baseball, yes. Numbers on their back, not so much. Would I care if someone wore 25 for the Giants? Of course. But Brandon Crawford, just as good as he was at his peak, he's not even remotely close to a Hall of Fame level player. And besides Bonds, who only isn't in the Hall of Fame because of, steroid accusations, the Giants typically don't retire numbers unless you make the Hall of Fame. I don't think anyone's worn like Tim Lincecum's number 55. I could be wrong about that, but people have worn Matt Cain's number, and Matt Cain was, I'd probably put Cain and Crawford in like a similar tier of like really good Giants, played almost their entire careers. Crawford did have that one random year in St. Louis. But anyway, I digress. Verlander is going to wear number 35 after it was last worn by Crawford in 2023. And so I'm going to read you some quotes from Crawford himself, because I just want to hammer home this point that for Verlander, it was critical to get Crawford's blessing. He wasn't just going to take this number. He wasn't just going to say, I'll send you a Rolex. There you go. With my not billions, but hundreds of millions of dollars that I've accumulated in my career. Here you go. Here's a Rolex. Thanks for the number. No, he wanted a, not face-to-face, but like phone call, like voice-to-voice conversation with Crawford to get this approval. And so we're going to get into the number thing, but also talk about Verlander, the pitcher, because that's ultimately, to me, a more important topic. But I think a lot of people care about this number stuff. So Crawford said in a conversation with Alex Pavlovich that he told Verlander he couldn't imagine a better situation to see it, the number 35, again. Verlander said that he had a great conversation with Brandon Crawford, and that Crawford told him he couldn't imagine a better situation to see it again. And then Brandon Crawford is quoted here by Pavlovich as saying, "The number 35 is special to me because it was the only one I ever wore in my big league career. But there's more to it than that. When I got my call up, Mike Murphy, Giants clubhouse attendant for a long time, very long time, told me that he wanted me to wear 35 because I reminded him of two great Giants shortstops, Rich Aurilia and Chris Spire. Obviously, growing up a Giants fan, I watched Richie in that number for years, so I thought that was pretty cool by itself. But when a guy that had been doing his job as long as Murph had still got as excited as he did to give some rookie his number, that made it even more special to me. As much as it might take some getting used to seeing someone else wearing number 35 in a Giants uni, I'm glad it'll be on Justin. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he has also been a great ambassador to the game throughout his career and is as competitive as they come. I'm excited to watch the number be represented well at Oracle this season." So it's not just Crawford saying that, after Verlander just came in and snatched his number. They had a conversation, and Verlander said he wasn't just going to take it unless he got Crawford's blessing, which he had heard from Buster Posey that he had the blessing, but Verlander was still uneasy with it unless he talked, I'm going to just say, face-to-face with Crawford. So that's all you can ask out of Verlander, and for Verlander, it's the only number he's ever worn, I believe. He may have worn like a different number in his first year or something, but it's it's Verlander's number 2, and he has worn it longer. I mean, he's still playing. He's been around forever. He's going to definitely have that number on his jersey in the Hall of Fame, and so it makes sense that he wants to continue to wear it. So anyway, Verlander spoke to Susan Slusser of the San Francisco Chronicle and had this to say about the number. He said, quote, "I just wanted to make sure I went about it the right way. Obviously, when we spoke at the press conference, I hadn't spoken with Brandon in person. I really wanted to do that, and we had a great conversation. Really, getting his blessing was really important." And so that's kind of the end of the number talk for Verlander, the jersey number talk. And for me, it transitions more to numbers on the field in 2025 for Verlander because he has a full no trade clause. And so he's not a piece that they're just looking to hope he has a good season and then flip him for prospects. They're hoping that he contributes greatly to the cause in 2025 and helps them get to the postseason. So that is obviously not a sure thing given his age. If we're talking 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, very different. But at this point, what you're looking at with Verlander is, okay, he's 41, He turns 42 in a week, But yeah, what do we expect out of Verlander, the pitcher? So we'll get into that and much more from spring training, including some lineup plans according to Bob Melvin and some updates on some players who had significant injuries last year and where they're at physically. So before we get into it, though, we're going to get into this. Today's episode of Locked on Giants is brought to you in part by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk right here or on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, here we go. We are going to get into updates from spring training. This thing is underway. Pitchers and catchers have reported. The position players report on Monday, and then spring training games get underway a week from Friday, a week from tomorrow, Valentine's Day. And so, yeah, baseball's back, and that's exciting for me. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. Coming up tomorrow, we will have another show. I've got a lot of stuff in the queue. We've got an interview that was extensive with Bob Melvin by Brody Brazil that I want to listen to and talk about because there's some nuggets in there from what I understand. And any other updates that come out today. That's the beauty of spring training being underway, is that stuff, players and coaches and the manager and possibly Buster Posey speak with the media, and then we get info that we can pass along to you and analyze. So anyway, let's get into Verlander, the pitcher, because his numbers on the field matter a lot more to me than the number on his back, even though I get it for you Jersey people. I get it. But there's only so many numbers, right? You can't just hold them all. And yeah, anyway, they don't just stop giving out people's numbers generally unless they're Hall of Famers. I do believe Lincecum has been an exception where they're just not giving out that 55, but I don't know. I can't remember because, like I said, I don't really care all that much. So Patrick Bailey, he caught Verlander's first bullpen session on Wednesday and had this to say to the media about the session. He said, "Professional, precise, exactly what you'd expect. Obviously, I've got a pretty good understanding of what he's done. I've just got a find a way to find a way." I assume that was a typo. "For him to have confidence in me and do it as quick as possible." So that's Bailey being humble because Bailey is arguably the best defensive player in baseball. And so he's going to get the confidence of Verlander quickly. Bailey's the best framer in baseball, and that's really kind of the biggest thing you want. And he controls the running game. He's not the best blocker, but framing, stealing strikes for your pitchers is where it's at. That's where the most bang for your buck comes in defensively as a catcher. Obviously, there's also like calling the right pitches, but they'll work it out. I have full confidence in that. And that's just Bailey saying he's got to figure it out, and he will. And Verlander spoke to Susan Slusser and had this to say. He said, "This is for sure the best I've felt in the last few years. I mean, 2022 was the last time I had a healthy ramp up, meaning going into the season." So let's just pause there because I don't want to hear the fluff. I just want to see, okay, 2022 was the last time you had a healthy ramp up. Well, what did he do that year? He pitched 175 innings, made 28 starts, had a 1.75 ERA in his age. If this is his age 42 season, that would be age 40. His age 40 season. Age 39 season. 1.75 ERA, 6.1 Fangraphs wins above replacement, Cy Young Award in his age 39 season. 39, 40, 41, yeah. So, okay, that's good to hear. His strikeout rate was also like 28% that year. If you're looking for signs of decline, I mean, it's obvious, like age is the first place you look, but his strikeout rate has declined it's declined every year since 2019, and that's going back a ways, from a high of 35.4% to last year just 18.7%. So 35% is way above Major League average, and 18.7 is pretty significantly below Major League average. So that's one thing I'm going to be watching for closely this season. But for now, we just have to take his word for it that he feels really good. I guess velocity readings and stuff like that are also important eventually as we get closer to the season. If he's throwing 89, it's like, ugh, versus if he's like, okay, I'm throwing 97. Okay, so continuing. Verlander said, just watching some of the video this spring. Oh, this is Bob Melvin, excuse me. Just watching some of the video this spring. I guess he's been there longer than just a day. He looks like pretty much the same guy. You look at all the initial numbers, meaning probably the advanced data they get on every single pitch, the spin rates, the spin efficiency, all the stuff, the carry that you get on the fastball, the break. They can analyze every little detail of every pitch that you throw. So you look at all the internal numbers and the velos and stuff like that. Throwing bullpens, it's all been really good. We're really counting on him. He knows it. And Slusser continued by saying, Verlander dominated Bob Melvin's 2012 and 13 A's in postseason series, allowing just 2 runs in 4 starts in 31 innings, almost single-handedly whisking Oakland out of the playoffs. And Melvin said with a smile on Wednesday, quote, he came in and apologized to me right away. I'm not going to tell you what I told him, but there's a ton of respect, certainly, for what he's done. There have been some pretty dramatic games that he's pitched against teams that I've had, so it's nice to have him on our side. So that's an A's thing. Like, the Giants actually bucked the trend big time against Verlander in the playoffs. He was like trying to pull a Madison Bumgarner impression, and the Giants just rocked him in the World Series in 2012. So, haha, but welcome to the Giants. So, yeah, you're always going to get stuff like this in spring where the reports are great on everybody and they're in the best shape of their life. But when you're 42 in a week, look, I care mostly about the data and I don't have access to it. The stuff Melvin was talking about, the internal numbers and the velos. So if the internal numbers and the velos actually look good, then that's a great sign. And so what do you expect out of Verlander in 2025? What should you expect? Well, hopefully not what we saw last year, which was a 5.48 ERA in only 90 innings pitched. Keep in mind he had an expected ERA of just 3.78, and he wasn't healthy. And then the year before that, 27 starts, 162 innings, 3.22 ERA in his age 40 season, with a 3.63 expected ERA. And so, I don't know, at some point age is going to catch up with him, but he's determined to keep pitching, and the quality of his stuff last year was actually above average by like every pitch, according to this metric called Stuff Plus. And so if he's healthy, he could be good. I don't know. I wouldn't put money on it, but you know, it's a worthwhile roll of the dice, and it won't be boring. If he gets rocked, it won't be fun, but it's not boring to have Justin Verlander on your team. So anyway, there's the update on Justin Verlander. Figured it would be appropriate to talk about a pitcher after pitchers and catchers were the ones to report. But we also had some position players reporting. We also had Bob Melvin commenting on position players. So we're going to switch our focus to a number of position players, including LaMonte Wade Jr., Jung Hoo Lee, Wilmer Flores, Tom Murphy, remember him? Also another pitcher in Jordan Hicks. So a lot of updates on a lot of players coming up in just a minute and before we get into it. All right, as promised, we are going to get into a number of other updates that have come out just from one day of spring training. And thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. Everydayers, tomorrow, we will be back with another episode. We will be breaking down whatever else comes out of spring training today. And I'm also going to watch this like 20-minute interview Bob Melvin did with Brody Brazil and find any nuggets there that I can, any quotes from Melvin that are of interest to you. And so be on the lookout for that tomorrow. Anyway, moving along, there are updates on several players, including like lineup updates and then also health updates and like role updates. Okay, so I'll just get into it. The first thing I wanted to mention was the lineup, and I think I took some heat for this. For those of you who gave me heat for this, I'm going to find these tweets and like reply to them with this tweet from Alex Pavlovich, because I assumed this was going to be what the Giants were going to do, and it sounds like this is what the Giants are going to do. I mean, Melvin said this. He said, Pavlovich said in a tweet, quote, Bob Melvin said, Giants are toying with the idea of Jung Hoo Lee hitting third as he returns. So it would be Wade, Adames, Lee, Chapman, Ramos in the top half. Wade is healthy, and they like his on-base percentage skills at the top of the order. And so in my little mock-up lineup prediction or whatever it was I was doing, for some reason making a lineup, one thing I went is left, right as much as I could, which is good to do in general because it kind of prevents teams from like, oh, you've got 3 lefties in a row, here comes a left-handed reliever. And if you go left, right, they just can't, they just kind of have to pick their poison. Which matchup do you want the advantage in? And remember, there's a 3-batter minimum rule, and so they're going to have to face some righties. If it goes left, right, left, you'll get 2 lefties and 1 righty, but the 1 righty might hurt you. So I don't know. That's a consideration to me. Lineup construction is proven to be not all that important, actually. I think people spend way too much time talking about it and thinking about it. But nevertheless, I did have Wade first because of the on-base skills and Lee third, and I think someone gave me a hard time about Jung Hoo Lee hitting third and saying, I think it was when I was imagining Luis Arraez on the team, or like looking at a potential lineup if they had Luis Arraez. And whether it was Arraez or Jung Hoo Lee, I had one of them hitting third. And Jung Hoo Lee, same thing, not a lot of power, but projections are that this is a guy who's going to, because he doesn't strike out, his strikeout projection is among the lowest in the game, even though he's barely played in the major leagues. Still, projection systems believe he will strike out among the least on a rate basis in baseball. And we saw that last year. It was under 10% in the little sample of playing time that he had. League average is closer to 25%, and he was under 10. So anyway, that leads to higher batting averages, which leads to higher on-base percentages. And you may not hit for a lot of power, but you are getting on base. So anyway, you just want your strongest hitters towards the top of the lineup, whether it's power or on base, whatever it is. It all adds up to run creation, theoretically. And you do have some thumpers in there with Adames and Chapman. I know it's not Barry Bonds, but Adames, Chapman, like these are 25-plus home run hitters. Ramos hit over 20 home runs in a partial season last year. So it's not like, oh, this is the 1927 Yankees, but at the same time, it's not a bad top 5 if it goes Wade, Adames, Lee, Chapman, Ramos with Yastrzemski and whoever else. There is a big question about who's the DH on this team, and that's kind of what I want to get into next. Although I'll point out a player we just discussed, LaMonte Wade Jr. Susan Slusser said, another interesting tidbit from the manager sessions. So that's part of it too, is in spring training, they meet with the manager every day. And so we get updates and hear things like this. But apparently, Bob Melvin said, LaMonte Wade Jr. spent the offseason doing tons of running, which is good because he had knee problems, and could be an option in the outfield this year if needed. So I do want to just say, as I type in his name on Fangraphs, that LaMonte Wade Jr. played 11 games in the outfield. No, 12 in the outfield last year. So she had like one of those eyeball emojis, like, whoa. But the comment here is that he could be an option in the outfield this year if needed. Well, I would say that's what that was last year. He was an option in the outfield at times last year when needed. And the year before that, he also played in the outfield. So when he first came to the Giants, he only played the outfield. Well, I guess no. He in 2021, 191 game innings at first base and 543 in the outfield. In 2022, 280 innings in the outfield and 154 at first. So it was more of a split, but still more in the outfield. 2023, it was 888 innings at first and just 112 in the outfield. And last year, it was 743 innings at first and just 42 in the outfield. So he's always been an option in the outfield, but it's declined every year. He's played fewer and fewer innings in the outfield every year since he's been with the Giants. And it's been dramatically cut every year from 543 to 280 to 112 to 42. But I wouldn't expect a dramatic increase like 42 again, or somewhere between 42 and 112 would be my guess. So that's that. But then continuing on other updates, I want to talk about the DH spot because I mentioned the lineup. So this is one big tweet here where there's a lot to unpack, but it's from Alex Pavlovich, and he said, "No surprise, but Bob Melvin said Ryan Walker is his closer." So I'll just comment on that first. That is no surprise at all. Ryan Walker, it has less to do with Camilo Doval, in my opinion, who I think will have a rebound season, and more to do with just how elite Ryan Walker was and why, like, I don't think he allowed a single run after taking over the closer's role. And he was just so good all year, and he was really good the year before that. And he doesn't have the same kind of command issues that can plague Doval at times, which can lead to, if you have one game where you just can't find the zone consistently, it can cause a blown save, especially when you're dealing with one-run games in the ninth and stuff. And that's, if you can find a guy who was as good as Ryan Walker, that should be your closer. So it's, again, less to do with Doval and more to do with how good Ryan Walker is and was last year. So Pavlovich continues. He says they'll have a spring competition for the fifth spot in the rotation with Kyle Harrison and Hayden Birdsong leading the way. Landon Roop, I think, is going to be in that mix. But interesting to point out that Kyle Harrison not really promised a rotation spot, according to this tweet. And then Pavlovich says the main spot they need to figure out in camp is designated hitter. And then he says in parentheses, Encarnacion, Flores are the favorites. And then he just throws in, also Tom Murphy is fully healthy. Just randomly throws that in there. But the DH spot, I have made the case on this show that Jerar or Jerar Encarnacion is out of minor league options and put up monster numbers, I think playing in Mexico, and then the Giants signed him, and then he put up monster numbers in AAA, and they called him up. So in AAA, in just 33 games, Encarnacion hit 352, hit a 438 on base, a 616 slugging. He was 62% better than average in AAA. I don't know if that's just based on all of AAA or on the Pacific Coast League in general, which matters because that's a very hitter-friendly league. I should really figure that out. But he wasn't great at the major league level last year. He had just a 301 weighted on base average, which is a little below average. But the expected numbers were so much better. Like, he hit the ball really hard a lot, and those balls were caught, is what that means. And he is only 27 years old. He'll turn 28 not until late October. So he's a young player still. And you look at those expected numbers and the fact that he's out of minor league options. And to me, that spells this guy's making the team out of spring training and will be given a shot. Given where the Giants are at It makes too much sense to give a player like this an opportunity, just in case you found a diamond in the rough here. And you look at those expected numbers, look at his age, and the minor league options being 0, and that just would tell me that whether or not he starts the season as the DH, I mean, I expect him to make this roster and get playing time so they can evaluate. And this is, I think, going to be a season based on the lack of moves, really, except Willy Adames and Justin Verlander, that they're going to evaluate their own players, and Encarnacion is one of them. So Flores is there. And speaking of Flores, Susan Slusser said Wilmer Flores reported this morning, I think that was today, so on Thursday, and looks terrific. He's lost some weight and looks like he's in super shape. Best shape of his life alert, in parentheses. So it's a cliche in spring training. People are in the best shape of their lives. We read it all the time. You'll continue to read it for numerous players. Never means anything, really, because it just doesn't mean people get hurt all the time and came into camp in the best shape of their lives. So we'll see. But more importantly, I think, is remembering Flores was like their best hitter, not just because they were awful offensively. He was legitimately incredible offensively, especially from May on, when the rest of the team went into this horrible slump in 2023. So let's not just only focus on the fact that he was not good and injured in 2024. Flores is still on this roster. It's his last year of his contract, but possibly he has a rebound season. And so it's nice to have him around, I think. And don't forget about 2023. I think that's foolish. So finally, Jordan Hicks has gained, apparently, Jordan Hicks says, per Shayna Rubin of the Chronicle, that he gained about 14 pounds in the offseason to prepare endurance-wise for a full season as a starter. Said he feels he can, quote, take the training wheels off, end quote. And so another guy who they signed him to a 4-year contract. Last year was year 1. He was really good in the first half, maybe a little less than half of the season, really good. And then he really fell off. And clearly it was fatigue. It was just obvious. The velocity was down. He looked tired. He's been a reliever his whole career, except in the minors before he came to the majors. In his major league career, he's been a reliever the whole time. And he used to, as a reliever, throw like 105 miles an hour, basically. So as a starter, the velocity was understandably down, but he wants to continue to be a starter, and the Giants are going to let him do it. And he added weight to do it. And so there's reason for hope, given how good he was before he fatigued. And if he can continue to stay strong and not fatigue, then who knows? Maybe he has a full season of being first half Jordan Hicks of last year. Not saying it's going to happen, but hey, it could, and he's doing the right things in order to make it happen. Anyway, those are all the updates. That's a lot, and that's the beauty of spring training getting started. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, my name's Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter or X at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much, so thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.